LVN baby killer Genene Anne Jones, born July 13, 1950 in northwestern San Antonio, Texas, adopted by a Kit Kat swim nightclub owner and his wife. She was one out of 4 children. She worked as a beautician. She married her high school sweetheart in 1968 and 1974. During the time of their first marriage, she had a child. They decided to divorce. 3 years later, they reconciled and had a daughter named Heather on July 17, 1977. On October 18, 1977, she received her license vocational nurse, LVN. She worked as ICU pediatric nurse at the University Hospital of San Antonio, also known as Bexar County Hospital. May through December 1981, 20-plus babies admitted to the intensive care unit begun dying at an alarming rate, going under cardiac arrest or runaway bleeding. 1. Chris Hogita died at 7:32 p.m. on May 21, 1981, 15 months old, developed hepatitis and died of cardiac arrest. 2. Jose Antonio Flores, 6 months old, died on October 10, 1981 at 5:22 p.m. of seizures on the third day. He went into cardiac arrest twice, then died. 3. Dorelia Rios, a 2-year-old, died on December 22, 1981 at 8:12 p.m. of cardiac arrest. 4. Rolando Santos, 4 weeks old, had pneumonia. January 1, 1982, his blood pressure fell, bleeding from an old needle puncture. They blood tested Rolando on January 6, 1982. Blood was positive for heparin. 5. Patrick Zavala, 4-month-old, died on January 17, 1982 at 9:45 p.m. of irregularities in his heartbeat. The majority cases death occurred while being the care of LVN Genene Jones. Some colleagues accused Genene of the murders. A statistically improbable number of infants died under her care. The hospital, being afraid of a lawsuit, asked all LVNs to resign and only staffed RN to over pediatric intensive care unit. Genene Jones worked for several others: Medox San Antonio Nursing Agency and Santa Rosa Medical Center, a large non-profit private hospital. Dr. Catherine Holland opened her Holland Clinic on August 23, 1982 in Kerrville, Texas. She hired Genene Jones as her nurse. Kerrville was 60 miles outside of San Antonio. In 1982, 7 infants suffered in August and September of mysterious seizures at Holland Clinic. Another 6 other infants were injected with Succinylcholine, a powerful short-acting paralytic that causes temporary paralysis of all skeleton muscles, control breathing. The drug is used as a part of general anesthetic. In small children, cardiac arrest is the result of deoxygenation, lack of respiration. On August 3, 1982, Genene license expired. The Texas Board Vocational Nursing Examiners didn't receive the fees to renew it. Genene was practicing nursing without the valid license required by the state until November 29, 1982. 6. Brandy Lee Benitez, August 27, 1982, 1-month-old, Genene carried her to the treatment room where she stopped breathing, then had a seizure. Brandy's pulse grew faint. Dr. Holland revived her. 7. Christopher Parker, August 30, 1982, 4-month-old. Genene told the parents his feet looked blue and carried him in the treatment room. 8. Jimmy Pearson, 7 years old, had a heart defect called tetralogy of Fallot and hereditary condition that limits bone growth. He weighed 21 pounds. He had a seizure and was semi-conscious and blue from lack of oxygen and frothing with phlegm, which Genene injected him with Neosynephrine. Jimmy's heartbeat started showing irregularities. He stopped breathing with no pulse. Jimmy died on October 21, 1982. 9. Misty Reichenau, 21-month-old, sick and fussy. Genene ushered her to the treatment room. Dr. Holland wanted Genene to put AIV into her. Misty started having seizures. Dr. Holland tried to put a tube in her throat, but Dr. Holland never asked for a nectine. Dr. Holland sent Misty to the hospital. Misty went home 3 days later. Genene told Dr. Holland she was doing inventory of the office drugs and a small vial of a nectine was missing. 10. Chelsea Ann McSellen, on September 17, 1982, she was supposed to get 2 shots for diphtheria tetanus injection and measles mumps rubella shots. Genene prepared the syringes. Genene gave Chelsea her shots. Chelsea stopped breathing, turning blue, and then began having seizures. She flatlined, her heart flickered on and off, beating weakly, then stopped. Chelsea died. 11. Jacob Evans, a 5-month-old, with crying spells. Genene took Jacob to the treatment room to start AIV. Jacob started screaming for 6 to 7 minutes. Dr. Holland rushed him to the hospital where his condition was stabilized. He was in ICU for 3 days then returned home. 12. Rolinda Ruff, a 5-month-old, had diarrhea for the past 2 weeks. Genene came to take the baby to the treatment room to check her temperature. Genene started AIV for dehydration. Another doctor said the baby was coming out from under a nectine. The medical hospital started an investigation into strange deaths in pediatric intensive care unit. Reviewing medical records, 94 infants brought to ICU between 1981 and 1982. The group worked undercover until February 1983. There were 13 cases experienced sudden and unexplained problems, cardiac arrests, seizures, or bleeding episodes. 10 out of 13 died under LVN Genene Jones within 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift. At the Holland Clinic, Dr. Holland waited until Genene went to lunch to check the drugs in the office. She found 2 puncture marks in a bottle of succinylcholine chloride in a drug storage. She and Genene only had access. The contents were full with heavily diluted with water. It was estimated only 20% of the vial content. Dr. Holland and Genene Jones had to take a polygraph. Genene Jones failed. On May 26, 1983, Genene Jones indicted 2 counts of murder. In 1985, Genene Anne Jones was sentenced to 99 years in prison for death of 15-month-old Chelsea McSellen. Within the year, she was sentenced to a concurrent of 60 years in prison for death of Rolando Santos using heparin. May 2016, held at the Lane Murray unit of TDCJ. Genene thought she would be released due to a new Texas law to prevent prison overcrowding. Genene Jones indicted on May 25, 2017 for the death of Joshua Sawyer. New charges were filed to avoid her release. In April 2018, a judge in San Antonio denied a request to dismiss 5 new death indictments against Genene. She signed a plea which dismissed 4 other charges. She was sentenced life in prison and will not be eligible for parole until she's 87. Between 1977 and 1982, Genene Jones murdered over 60 infants using injections of Digoxin, Heparin and Succinylcholine to induce medical crisis in her patients, causing numerous deaths. No one knows if she murdered 60 or more. The hospital's official alleged misplacing and destroying records of Genene Jones' activities to prevent litigation after Genene's first conviction. There were 9,000 pounds of documents shredded.